Y is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Oh, what else is there?
If I was blonde, I would do Michelle Pfeiffer and Scarface.
Sure, that would be a good one. You don't want to do a wig, I'm assuming. Heat
I can't
connected.
pull off anything blonde.
Okay. Scarface would be good. What else we got there?
See, this is a great dilemma.
Well, no, all my ideas are just getting shot down in flames.
Because they're good ideas that won't fly.
Oh, fine.
I mean, some of them were terrible, but some of them
Thank
were
you.
good.
And let's not
Some of them
let's
I
not
expected more
differentiate.
from you than that,
Right.
but some
Let's
of
not
them are very
differentiate.
good. Because I do have to kind of be solo, and some of them would be better as a group.
Right. You don't want to be just Starsky wandering around the party.
No, and if it wasn't located near where my clients are, I could wear my blazer from said client and either do Joe Polnicek from Facts of Life or
That would be
my
amazing.
Angus Young that I've been trying to do forever.
Sure.
But I can't wear that to this club because it's
What
too
about
close.
like Slutty Scarecrow / Mrs. King?
I mean, that would be amazing because I was obsessed with that show. Obsessed.
I've got it.
Okay.
And it doesn't require like a very particular color or garment.
Okay.
Anywhere.
Okay.
It's topical. It's timely.
I'm getting nervous.
Slutty Jessica Fletcher. Hear me out.
All right.
Just saying.
I actually love this idea, but Rachel's going to want to steal it.
Who else? She can go as Tom Bosley. She needs to get her own show. Come on. Now that's, you're not going to be standing in line at the buffet and you're going to be standing next to your doppelganger.
It's so true. I would have to get a wig though. And I don't have anything in my closet that will work for that, but I do like the concept. I mean, yes, and a typewriter.
Yes.
And then I could go around and tell everyone that I killed them all and get the ending I always wanted for that show.
Yeah, it's true. Not the one where she wakes up and she's on Newhart.
No, but that is still the best. I have the best thing I could wear to be Suzanne Plachette.
I thought you were going to say, and here is my.
No, but I don't think I mean, I do.
Cosby ruined sweaters for everybody.
I know. I know.
Mallory Keaton.
I do.
Okay.
No.
Just.
I mean, I wish I was just a smidge old. I mean, I don't wish I was. If I was a smidge older, I'd go as 80s Elizabeth Taylor. But I'd need like a Michael Jackson with me too.
Yeah, and a chimp, and that then you're getting into rental fees and deposits,
and lots of diamonds because you got to be authentic.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to go out and buy white diamonds, right?
Yeah.
You own white diamonds?
Real ones or the perfume? I did own the perfume at one point. I can still smell the perfume.
These always brought me luck.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
So this happened to me the other day, and I need to know if this is strange or I'm just a curmudgeon.
Okay.
So I'm at the grocery store. I'm at the deli counter getting my meats and cheeses.
Yes.
The butcher helping me says, "Do you need any more meats and cheeses?" I say, "No, I've got all my meats and cheeses that I need." He hands me the meats and cheeses. I say, "Thank you very much." He says, "Thank you. Have a great day." I'm like, "Thanks, you too." I put said meats and cheeses into my cart.
Mm-hmm.
I turn around to take the cart and take 2 steps away, and I hear from over my shoulder, "Hey, enjoy the nice weather." Now, first off, Jeremy, I don't know what his name is.
Okay.
Jeremy, how do you know that I'm not enjoying the nice weather we're having?
True.
How do you know this is how I enjoy the nice weather, is to go to delis and ask for meat?
Okay, but how does he even know that you believe this weather is nice? So, for example,
this is what I'm saying.
Rachel doesn't love this weather. This is too hot for her. So I mean, she appreciates that other people like it, but
Okay.
she,
Is she
that
part polar
this would,
bear? What's going on?
yes, this would
Okay.
not be nice weather in her mind.
It's very presumptive. It's what if I'm just too busy to enjoy the nice weather? It seems to me that taxidermy is similar to hunting in that it's something that gets passed down to the generations. Is that how you got into this, or were you just kind of a kid who was into
No,
this kind
no,
of
not
thing?
at all.
Oh, okay.
No. How I got into it, I grew up in a very small town in Minnesota, rural Minnesota, of 1,000 people. And as a teenager, there's not a whole lot to do in the summertime. But there was another gentleman in town that had a taxidermy business. And as a young, 13, 14-year-old boy, I was very intrigued by animals, right? Like a lot of us probably
Yes.
are growing up. He used to let me hang around his shop, and so I used to watch him and just thought it was the neatest thing. And pretty soon, this was back in like 1980, a long time ago. There wasn't DVDs or YouTube to learn how to do taxidermy. It was kind of a hidden art. People didn't share their tricks and things like that. So I took books out at my library, and my librarian in my high school would order books in for me, and I learned how to do it because the guy that I watched, he never mounted waterfowl or ducks, and that was where my interest was. And so I kind of just learned self-taught on how to mount ducks, and so I mounted some for myself and a couple of my neighbors that were, seniors in high school, and did them for just a little bit of money, and I thought they turned out pretty good. And long story short, I showed him to the guy that did taxidermy in town there that let me hang around his shop, and he was impressed, and so he offered me a job to mount the ducks for his customers. And so that's how I got started. I never intended to do it for a living. The only other way to make money in the summertime was to mow lawns or bale hay for the farmers, that sort of thing. And I got to sit in an air-conditioned shop and do this taxidermy, and it was great. And so fast forward, graduated in 1984. And I tell everybody that I graduated on Friday and went to work Monday and just started doing taxidermy.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm sitting here like all proud of I used to babysit 5 days a week in high school. And you're not only like learning an art form, but you created a whole new product line for the taxidermist in town and launched an entire career. So I feel very inept in my babysitting career.
Right. So, yeah, I just never envisioned I'd do this full time for a living. And it's a great industry in the fact that it's fun money for people, so to speak. So, hunting and fishing is people's escape, their hobby. And when they finally catch that trophy fish or what have you, or go on this dream hunt, we get to preserve their memory for them, and, they're coming to me willingly and freely to spend their money. I have a good friend who runs a big mechanic shop, and he always teases me that, nobody ever wants to give him money because they didn't want the transmission of their car to go out,
Right.
And so he's always joking that they come to me smiling, just giving me money, So it isn't quite like that, but it's very rewarding because, we get to share in their fun times, and people are pretty loyal too. So I kind of say that I'm the hairdresser to the ladies, hunters, although we do have a lot of women customers, obviously mostly men though. Once they come and they're happy, boy, they aren't going anywhere else. They're very content with where they're at and their work. And so we don't really have to advertise. We get all the work we want just from our existing clients and the people they refer to us.
That's outstanding. I mean, I live in Michigan, so I have a lot of hunters in my family and a lot of people with, trophies and whatnot. But, I know there are a few people out there that have like 20, 30, just tons of, do you have customers that have come to you that much where they have filled like,
yes.
Wow.
Yep.
That's amazing.
So I've been doing it long enough that I've even got, obviously had customers that have passed away and whatnot, but, my earlier customers now they're retirement age or going into assisted living and that sort of thing. And so they come to me and they say, what do I do with all this stuff? My kids don't want it, or my kids don't have the room for this stuff. What do I do with it? So I'm getting to that end, but yet I have their grandkids who are, just getting into it. And so all these generations worth of stuff. But yeah, it's kind of funny because, I do most things just piece by piece for people, but then I'll end up going to their home or to their trophy room to move something big in or figure out where we're going to put something. And I look around and go, wow, I did all this stuff for you. One out of my door, one at a time, but it's accumulated into this massive thing,
Like a natural history museum.
Sure,
That's amazing.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. And we've done work for interpretive centers, schools, all sorts of different things like that.
How long after the animal is killed or dies does it need to be brought to you? I know nothing about this field at all, and so
Sure. Well, I'll give you so what happens, it depends what it is. Whether it's a fish or for a deer, for example, a white-tailed deer is the most preserved mounted thing there is in the country because of its population, its popularity. So if it's a fish or a duck, for example, most people just wrap it up in a garbage bag of some sort and freeze it. And then once it's frozen, they can bring it to us, and there's really a long timeline. I mean, literally a couple of years before they have to do something with it. But when it's a big game animal, such as a deer or an elk or something like that, they pretty much need to come to us within days of shooting it. It has to be preserved in the sense of either cold or frozen or salted and dried, one of the methods, in order to keep it in good shape until they bring it to us. And then from us, kind of what happens is the only thing that's kept, if you want to envision a deer, for example, whether it's a shoulder mount or the whole animal, the only thing that you see that's real is the skin with the hair on it and the antlers. Everything underneath that, it's called a mannequin. So it's a styrofoam mannequin. I mean, just like you'd see a mannequin in a store with clothing on it, just picture a mannequin of a deer. And so we put that skin, just like you'd put your clothing on, over that mannequin. And so it's a very clean process. The skin is tanned into leather, just like a leather coat would be, but it's just has the hair on it yet. And so the skin, when we mount it, is very stretchy. And we cover that whole mannequin with glue. The eyes are made of glass, and they're set in a bed of clay. The antlers are attached to the mannequin via some screws through a wood mounting bracket on the top. And then that skin is pulled over that mannequin. And just like a seamstress, needle and thread, we sew that skin on to that mannequin, and then we do our detail work in the eyes, the nose, the ears, and all that. The ears have a plastic ear liner, just like your foot goes in a sock. The ear liner goes inside that. Excuse me. That ear goes inside of a deer's ear to hold its shape. If it's an animal like a bear or something that has a growling like a teeth and tongue, then it would be plastic or rubber that the teeth and the tongue are made out of. And so now when it comes to fish, we actually don't even do real skin fish anymore. We do all what's called a replica fish. So you catch the fish, you take pictures, and you let it go. And then we make a replica out of plastic that looks just like the fish you caught. And so that's a molding process, much like a dentist would mold your tooth. A mold has been taken of all these different fish and reproduced out of plastic, and then we hand paint them, just like an artist would paint a picture. We paint that fish to match your picture in the size of what the fish you caught. So that's kind of how the fish work. Most people are going to replica fish now just to promote catch and release, to let the fish go. In a lot of places, you can't even keep the large trophy fish. You have to let them go because, of course, there's more fishing pressure all the time, and they're just trying to protect the resource.
Sure.
So
that's amazing.
This is half a serious question, half a completely stupid one. But the faces of the animals, can you give them any expression, or do they have to have what they were doing when they died?
No. So the short answer is yes, we do. And that's really what distinguishes different taxidermists from one another is your ability and your detail in the expression that you give the animal. Some animals are more difficult, like cats, mountain lions, bobcats, African lions, things of that nature are much more difficult to get a real lifelike expression. We use a lot of reference material. Of course, back in the day, it was strictly just photographs that we took or bought from people. Nowadays, of course, with the internet, you can just, Google search, African kudu, and boom, all kinds of pictures of live kudu show up, and then you can look at the ear positions, the nose, the eyes, how they hold different parts of their body based on, what you're trying to get. And so, but the mannequin that we buy has the basic expression built into it. And so just like ordering a brand of car, we order a brand of mannequin from different suppliers that have made these. And some are more accurate than others, and of course price reflects that. And then once we get it, if it's good enough, we like it, we can mount on it custom or stock just the way it is, or we can customize it, and we do most of that with clay. So we'll mold, we'll put an expression of the eyebrows, or if it's a bear and it's snarling, the wrinkles behind its nose or what have you. We'll build that all out of clay, and then we cover that with glue before we put that skin over it. And so that's what gives it the detail.
All right. So if I wanted a deer that looked like it was kind of leaning on the bar holding a cocktail, that would be a special mannequin. That'd be a whole nother thing, right?
That'd be a whole nother thing.
Okay.
So,
all right. No, I'm just trying to, in my mind, price it out.
But,
yeah.
Right. So I tell everybody anything can be done, because some people come in, well, I don't know if you can do this. And I tell them the same thing, anything can be done. It's just a matter of how much you want to spend. Because when we have to customize something, that's more labor, time, and of course the price goes up from there. Mm-hmm. But primarily 99.9% of our business is animals. We're trying to make them look as natural and lifelike, like you would find them in nature, as possible. We're not into like what I would call a novelty item. Like for example, we don't do small animals. Anything smaller than like a deer, we don't even mount, like squirrels, raccoons, things like that. There are people that do. We just don't here. Because, well, various reasons. They're not very profitable, number one, and there's only so many hours in the day in the work that we can complete. So there's a very huge demand in our industry on work. So we turn work away every day, because I'm trying to only take in 1 year's worth of work. So if I didn't take another thing in today, I'd have easily a full year's worth of work ahead of me. But our industry is just like a lot of the trades, everything from construction to plumbing and all this. There's less people getting into those trades. The same thing with our industry. And so our industry is really aging. There's a lot of people at retirement age or beyond right now, and it's not getting filled by young people. So we've got just a huge demand for our work.
Wow. Why do you think that is, that people, because obviously the desire to have the trophies or to memorialize the animal is huge, like you said. Why do you think there isn't as much interest for people going into it?
Well, there's interest in people wanting to get into it, but there's a lack of schooling for it. And I'm not sure. Why is because you're not going to college. My daughter is a kindergarten teacher in Chicago. Mm-hmm. Well, she doesn't have the opportunity when she went to college to learn to become a taxidermist teacher. So where do you learn? Basically the teaching that's been done out there are people like myself, my industry, that have taken somebody on and taught them, an apprenticeship.
Sure.
And it's very hard to. It's a niche industry, and so it takes years to learn it, to become proficient enough to do clients' work and charge a living wage, so to speak, on it. And so it's just very hard to break into. There's other things like that. I think of people that are like blacksmiths and all these different trades that they exist out there, but where do you learn the trade?
Right.
So you have to find somebody. And I was just lucky enough to grow up in a town that had somebody that allowed me to hang out there. So.
Is there a particular animal or particular mount that when that comes through the door, you just start rubbing your hands together? You're like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Not really. I've been doing this for 40 years, so I don't feel like, there's really nothing. I mean, if you can hunt it in the country or in the world for that matter, I've pretty much mounted it. It doesn't matter. I've done giraffe, I've done zebras, I've done anything you can go after for the most part. And so, there's things that I don't do. And so there's animals that are very difficult to do. in fact, I just had a school call me, and they found a dead loon was found by the DNR, and they asked if I would mount that for their school. But they're one of the most difficult birds to mount, and I turned them down. I said nope, because there's just some things that are, everything's got to be customized for it, because there aren't many loons ever mounted, so we can't buy a mannequin for that loon because it would all have to be handmade, because there's not enough of them that are mounted in a year's time for a company to produce the products for it. So, so there's things that, but primarily the majority of my business are white-tailed deer, elk. We do a lot of waterfowl, ducks and geese, and then fish. So that's the majority. We do African animals as well. So we have clients that go to Africa and they'll shoot, 5 to 10 animals per person, and they'll bring back 20 animals for their group of 4 people, for example, but we'll mount them for them.
You said there are animals that are hard to mount. Is it all because they are so less common, let's say, that there isn't a mannequin for that?
Generally, the supplies are limited. So, for example, like a white-tailed deer. So coming from a business owner, I'm, of course, looking at it profitability-wise, too. So I know exactly how long it takes me to mount that deer. I know what products. I know I can, because it's the most mounted thing in the country, we have the most access to all these different quality mannequins. But if you have, let's just say, a hyena from Africa that somebody wants to mount, well, there might only be a handful of hyena forms on the market, and they might not be near the size of the hyena that you're mounting. So now you've got to alter that mannequin to make it larger or smaller, or the position you need. And so it's really hard to predict how long this is all going to take you. And, and that's a lot of work, So I tell people you have to be an artist to do the type of thing I do, but you also have to be a craftsman, like a carpenter, because you have to be able to cut and build. We do a lot of habitat work as far as building cabinets for, like, say, a life-size deer to be mounted on. We build it out of whatever type of wood the people want. We rebuild the habitat, make artificial rocks. A lot of our waterfall scenes are artificial water, so the ducks swimming in fiberglass resin to make it look like a wave, for example. We make fake icicles to make it look like it's cold out. We do all these kind of fun things with habitat. So the actual mounting of the animal is sometimes only half of what goes into the actual mount that goes out the door. The habitat and the base work can be just as much or more time consuming as the mount itself.
Yeah, there's a lot involved. A lot.
Oh, it sure is. People that don't know what I do or have never seen the process, I think they look at a mount on the wall, in their mind they envision this like skull and this gory looking thing that they're working on.
Totally.
And it's not. I mean, I go to work just like most people do with, a nice pair of jeans and a polo shirt on, and I'm clean as a whistle, because I'm working with just styrofoam and a tanned leather piece of skin, and it's changed. Years ago you would hear like, hey, there's a stuffed bear. Well, back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, before this urethane foam was available, they literally did mount a bear by stuffing it with a straw-like material called Excelsior that they literally stuffed it with. So that's where the phrase, a stuffed animal comes from. We call it a mounted animal because now we're mounting that to a mannequin. So the terminology is just different because of the products that are used nowadays compared to years ago.
How long does it take you to do like a white-tailed deer, your just basic deer animal?
Yep. So, it's really done in steps, because part of it is done in the fall time when the hunter harvests the animal. And then that skin has to be tanned into leather. And so I send that away actually to a place in Michigan, in Leadville, Michigan.
Excellent.
And they turn that into leather and they send it back to me. But once I have that skin tanned in my possession, I can mount 2 to 3 of those deer per day. Of course, it varies on phone calls and customers coming through the door and that sort of thing. But 2 to 3 a day usually.
Wow. So this must be a big shop you have to fit all these animals if people are bringing in at, multiples at a time.
I do. So I have about a 7,000 square foot building that And
Oh.
I have probably one of the bigger showrooms in the upper Midwest. I have a rebuilt mountain like you might see in Cabela's or Bass Pro Shops with 22-foot high ceilings. And, we have hundreds of mounts in our studio. And so I have that so that when the customer comes in, they can pick out the position of the animal that they have and visually see it and say, I like that one. And then I'm on the same page as them on what they're going to expect to get back. And so it's just nice to have something to show them all the different choices.
After all these years, do you ever still get the feeling that their eyes are following you, or one of them may come to life and chase you out of the office?
Not at all. Not at all. I'm just oblivious to it, It's just like anybody's work. You just get so used to it, right? That yeah. In fact, my home, I have one mount in my home of something that my daughter shot. That's it. Everything is at my studio. So a lot of people think, wow, your house must be full of this stuff. I tell them, actually, not at all.
No, you got to leave work at the office. Yeah,
nobody sees it in my home, right? So
right, exactly.
The things that I'm proud of, I have in my studio for people to look at.
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
we have a lake home that we've got a few of the items in, but that's about it.
That makes sense. You got to have them at the lake home for sure. My cousin's husband shot on deer hunting opening day, got a buck and a doe the same day, which was a big deal in our family. And so in their home, they have both of them mounted on the wall. And my little niece and nephew were like, oh, Aunt Heidi, you're going to be scared of these deer when you come in. But they instantly gave them voices and personalities. And we FaceTimed all of the relatives. So they're now my favorite things in the world.
Did they give them names? Usually people name them,
They named them.
And then I'll see the pictures.
Yes, it's great.
Sorry.
But I do feel they're alive, but I think it's because we gave them personality.
Yeah, I'll see pictures at Christmas time. People have got them dressed up with Santa hats on and red-nosed reindeer and all this stuff,
Yes,
So,
yes.
some people there's a place for it in most people's homes, whether it's a family room, a bar area, whatever, and it can be done very tastefully. People will tell me, like, that deer on the wall means a lot more to them than just hanging some print that they bought at, Target or something. That doesn't mean anything to them, And usually that's most artwork, right? You'll see a picture and it'll bring back a memory of, maybe something growing up or a special trip you're on. Well, when they mount that deer, that fish, they remember. I always say too that I can never see in that mount what the customer sees because they remember that day they were with their dad or their daughter's first hunt or whatever. I see the animal for what it is, but they see it for something totally different. And so that's why it's preserving a memory and it's special to each individual person,
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but the artwork, like the comparison is apt because it's something that someone's going to keep for a long, long time. How long
it's the personal part.
How long does a mount keep for?
Well, it'll keep indefinitely. I'll never say forever because forever is a long time, right? But I have mounts that I've done since the beginning of when I started. And back in the early, 1986, I had taken, I used to do a lot of competitions in our industry. We have state, national, and world competitions that we can compete with to see how we stack up against other people in our industry. And in 1986, I took first place with a waterfall mount in a unique wave scene, and it's under glass to keep it free from dust. So it's, over 35 years old, and it looks just like the day I did it. And the biggest hindrance is ultraviolet light or sunshine, daylight that will lighten the skin on a deer, for example, or the hair color. So it'll fade a little bit, right? So that's what happens over time is they get a little just faded out. Fish, we can repaint them, touch them up, that sort of thing. But as far as, if you go to, there's stuff in museums over 100 years old, and they look just like the day they did it. So if they're properly taken care of, they'll last for decades.
For more information about Jeff and the North Star Taxidermy Studio, check out their website, northstartaxidermymn.com.
Why the Podcast is produced by the Professional Production Company. Please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts because we're shallow and need constant validation. For more information, you can check out our website, whythepodcast.com. And like everyone else, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Today's show was recorded and produced by Heidi Hedquist and myself from our world headquarters located on the second floor of the professional office building, centrally located downtown. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?